So here we are at Seacroft SSSI, which is a site of special scientific interest. And joining us, we've got Vicky, the Senior Community and Education Officer for the Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust at Gibraltar Point National Nature Reserve.
What we've got behind us at the moment is one of the really nice areas of our salt marsh habitat. And this spreads all the way along the south of the Lincolnshire coast, around the Wash and into Norfolk. And this meets up with our dune systems along the coast and gives us a nice variety of different plants and habitats for lots of different animals to come and live in. So because the plants are here and we've got lots of diversity in those, that means it brings in a lot of the insects, creates a lot of food, and that in turn is really positive for the migrating species that come across, particularly anything coming across from Europe, because a lot of it will travel across the North Sea. This area of coastline and the Wash is going to be a key environment for those. So it's a resting point, it's a place to stop, get some food, and it's also a really important breeding site. So not only the Wash itself with all the sandbars and the salt marsh habitat that surrounds it, but also some of the inner lagoons around the marshes around Gibraltar Point as well.
Ah, fantastic. So it's a great place to come, whether you're a migrating bird or a visiting resident or local even.
It is, yeah, and in the summer you get this lovely purple colour from all the sea lavender that makes our marshes really distinctive, and it's a really beautiful place to see.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you were saying earlier that it's an unusual habitat here, a real mix between salt marsh and sand dune sort of habitats.
It is, yeah. If you were to look at the habitats and look in a textbook, they would be very much defined separate habitats to one another. What we actually find here is they kind of cross into one another. So we find the marsh species spreading up into the dunes, a little bit of dune going down to the dry areas of the marsh. And part of the reason for that is because we're near the Wash. So our coastline is easterly, so the sea will come in from an eastward direction, but the Wash allows the water to push up south to north. So all those little low areas between our dunes, the sea can get into on the tides, and that means that the salt marsh habitats are able to build up inside of those, as well as to the edges of them and the ends of the rivers as well.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that this whole area would get flooded by a high incoming tide.
It would, yeah. If you came here on a high tide, particularly around March and August, you'd have very wet feet where we're standing right now. And even when it gets down to low tides on those, it can still hold a lot of the water on here. We're on quite low tides at the moment, so it's quite dry and you're able to see a lot of the colours. And at this time of the year, the tides tend not to be quite so high. So in the summer, it's a nice time to try and come and explore.
Yeah, no, definitely. And would you have any advice to any visitors that might want to come and explore this area?
I would, yeah. I'd say come down. At first glance it looks quite flat and it looks quite green, but if you have a look, there's lots of variations in the heights and lots of different types of plants to have a look at. Do be very careful though, these areas are tidal, so the tide does come in and out along the creeks. It does make the ground quite soft and quite slippery as well. So try and stick around your main paths to have a look around, and make sure that you've checked your tide times if you want to come and have a look, because wellies or good boots are quite often very useful.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. We're going to explore now and have a look and see what plants and animals we can find.
Lovely. Enjoy.
Thanks again. Thanks all. So this is an interesting plant we've come across. Sea purslane. Covers a whole area around here on the salt marsh. It's quite an interesting plant because it likes to grow where it's a little bit drier. So it's a good plant to look out for, because that way you might stay a little bit drier instead of getting quite wet. Another interesting thing is if you look on the underside of the leaf, you'll see it starts to glisten a little bit in the sunlight, and this is the salt that it's trying to get rid of so it can survive out here on the salty salt marsh. So here we've found some sea lavender, beautiful purple flowering plants. And the nectar is actually providing a food source for a lot of these insects that you might be able to see hopping and skipping about. And that's another reason why migrating birds might want to come to this salt marsh at Skegness to feed on the insects that abound in this fantastic salt marsh habitat. So whenever you come to any special place like this, it's always important to take your litter home and leave nothing but a few footprints. And also, whenever you investigate any tidal area along the coast, it's also important to know when the tide's coming in and when the tide's going out. And these tide timetables are freely available online. Also, do be careful, make sure you don't fall into any creeks, and do be aware that fog can come in quite quickly. So enjoy these areas safely.